Hey there, future cybersecurity experts. Are you trying to land your dream job of a cybersecurity analyst? Well, today I've got the project that's just for you. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up Elastic SIEM, install an agent, and detect malware all like a pro and all for free. That's right, you're not going to need to spend any money to get these cybersecurity analyst skills. Imagine being able to showcase a real-world hands-on project to potential employers that demonstrates your ability to detect cyber threats. Sounds awesome, right? Well, stick around because I'm going to show you the step-by-step process on how to do this. First, we're going to dive into Elastic SIEM, powerful tool for monitoring and securing a network. I'll walk you through the installation, configuration, and get you up and running in no time. Next, I'll show you how to install an agent on a Windows machine, which will be used to collect logs and data that will help us identify suspicious activities. And the grand finale, I'll show you exactly how to detect malware, and I'll show you how to use Elastic SIEM to catch those nasty intruders and stop those hackers in their tracks. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete, impressive project under your belt that you can proudly showcase in your portfolio to future employers. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump in and get you moving towards that first job as a cybersecurity analyst. Hey, my name's AJ. I've worked in cybersecurity for the last 8 years, and on this channel, we teach all things cybersecurity for beginners. So before I can show you the project, you need to understand what a SIEM actually is. So a security information event management tool is a tool that is used by all cybersecurity analysts on a daily basis. And effectively what it does, it captures all of the device logs that are on a network. So all of the logs, so you have a network, all the devices connected to a network. Each one of those devices creates some type of log. So you might have a server, laptop, any firewalls, antivirus systems, endpoint detection agents, which is something I'm going to explain further in the video. Each one of these devices will generate logs. Those logs will be centrally stored into a SIEM. So one example of a SIEM is Elastic. So the tool is a SIEM, and the provider that I'm going to show you is Elastic. There's many out there. There's Microsoft have their own SIEM, Splunk have their own SIEM, and Elastic have their own SIEM as well. But they're all providers of SIEM solutions. But the underlying tool captures all of the logs from these devices, so they get sent to the Elastic SIEM. A SIEM has a set of rules which are called correlation rules. Those rules have been created and been written to look for suspicious activity in the device logs from the logs which are sent from the network. Then, when any of the indicators or the patterns match these rules, that'll generate an alert. That alert gets sent to a cybersecurity analyst to review, and then your job as a future cybersecurity analyst will be to take two options. You'll either be reviewing it, you can escalate it as an active cyber attack and an incident, so you've reviewed that rule, the alert that has come in is a true positive, and you know that that's an active attack that is going on. You need to then escalate that and go down your incident response process. Or the other option is, if it's not a legitimate attack and it's been deemed as a false positive, which means that the rule has incorrectly triggered on activity that is not malicious, you'll be then closing it out as a false positive and looking to improve that correlation rule for next time. So we'll get this kind of flywheel effect so that the detection engine, which is the SIEM, and their correlation rules can improve the alerts for the analyst to reduce the false positives and increase the amount of true positives and active attacks and incidents that are actually going to be raised, because this is what we want. The more in true positives that we get, the better the detection engine is going to be. So this is the basis of what a SIEM is. Every single cybersecurity analyst needs to know how to use one of these tools. Once you get the grasp of one of them, you'll get the grasp of them all. But I'm going to show you Elastic SIEM today because it's the one that I've personally got experience with and I've set up at home before. So I'm going to show you how to do the same thing. I'm also going to show you how to set up an endpoint detection agent. So the agent will be installed on a laptop or a network device, and that will then send logs to the Elastic SIEM. So all of that I'm going to show you in the next few steps. Now you understand what a SIEM is, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to Elastic SIEM. So Elastic SIEM is this one here. So it's a SIEM from a company called Elastic themselves. And here are some screenshots of what it looks like, but the SIEM itself allows, once the logs are ingested, you can create these amazing dashboards and detections to be able to eliminate blind spots, strengthen defenses, and actually detect malicious activity on a network. And companies use this on a daily basis to be able to detect attacks that are taking place I got no affiliate with Elastic. I just really like their SIEM, and I think it's an easy setup for a whole project. But Elastic is just one company that offer a SIEM, and this is what it will look like. And I'll go into more detail on how to actually use it. But you can see you can set up these specific dashboards to see where attacks are coming from. You can look at different threats. So there's a lot of machine learning and advanced analytics that go in here. And you can also do automated response to be able to respond quickly to active threats on the network. Now that you understand what Elastic SIEM is, I'm going to show you how to set it up and configure it with a free trial. First, you want to click Start Free Trial. This will take you to this page where you're going to need an email address to be able to sign up. So you can create any random email address just for this trial if you want to, if you don't want to use your own email address, or you can even sign up with Google and Microsoft. Probably the best way to do it is to create a burner email address and just use that for this purposes. So then it'll start to set up. So you're going to want to fill your information in here. So put your name in. We can use empirical training, but you don't have to use a company name. You can put whatever you want in here. When it comes to Elastic, you can put in a new user. You can say that what you're primarily interested in is the security analytics, the SIEM, endpoint detection, and cloud security. And right now, I'd like to just evaluate Elastic for my project or use case. And then you want to click Next. So then it's going to ask you to create your first deployment. So you can say my first SIEM or whatever you would like to call it. And then click Create Deployment. And it'll load into Elastic SIEM like this. So it'll actually try to prompt you with a wizard to go down each one of these routes. So detect threats in my SIEM, secure my hosts, or secure my cloud assets. You can just skip this and we can just do I'd like to explore on my own. And then it'll bring you to this page then. And the first one you want to go to is security. So as quickly as that, you've just set up your own SIEM. So congratulations on doing the first part, which is actually setting up Elastic SIEM. And that's how quickly you can get a SIEM set up. But of course, there's no logs or any data in here yet. But that's something we're going to come to next. Because ultimately, without any data or without any logs, the SIEM is actually useless. So now that you've got this set up, I just want you to start exploring parts of the SIEM just to get familiar with what you're actually looking at. So in the security dashboard, then you've got a set of links to dashboards. So these are actually predefined dashboards by Elastic. So they can help a cybersecurity analyst perform various tasks. But effectively what they're doing, the data, once it's ingested and is connected to these dashboards, it's going to help format the data in easy-to-read formats. So a cybersecurity analyst can make quick decisions based on these dashboards. You've got things such as overview, so it's going to provide a summary of the security environment. So of course, there's no data ingested into these as of yet, but these dashboards are here and they're pre-made, which they're very, very good dashboards. Detection and response, so it's going to provide information about the alerts and cases that are within a security solution. So this is actually where a cybersecurity analyst would spend most of their time, is reviewing the detection and response dashboard to review what alerts are coming in. So all of this will start to get populated when there's logs ingested, and that's something I'm going to show you in a bit. But these dashboards are here just for you to look at. You've also got rules, so these are the correlation rules then. So like I mentioned, SIEMs have correlation rules. They also have some predefined rules. So these are the rules that are actually going to be detecting malicious activity. So if you wanted to add Elastic rules, you can come in here. So let's say we want to see all the Windows-based rules. So we can type in Windows. So these are all the rules then that are pre-built by Elastic to detect malicious activity that takes place on a Windows host. So as you come in here, you can have a look at these rules so you can get a good idea. It's going to tell you all about the rule itself. Here you can see the actual query. So this is what it's actually looking for in the log itself. So anytime there are Windows-based event logs in the SIEM, if this rule is enabled, what it's going to do then is actually look for this particular entry in the logs. And then once it does that, then it will generate an alert to say that a PowerShell script has been detected with log clearing capabilities, and that would be the alert that generates for the analyst to review. So it's good experience to come through here to get an idea of what these alerts look like, because as a cybersecurity analyst, if you want to be a cybersecurity analyst that stands out, if you can become an analyst that can create these rules, then you're going to really stand out as an analyst engineer. So you can go into a company and say, well, I can analyze these alerts and I can actually build them as well. When one of these rules generates an alert, it'll pop up in this tab here. So this is where an analyst would come in to review that. But I'll show you what that actually looks like in the next step. So please do come in here. I can't go through every feature of Elastic SIEM in this video, but please do come here, get familiar with each type of category that we've got here, have an understanding of what they actually do, and then you'll get a better understanding of how SIEMs actually work. Because as you can see, Elastic and their SIEM has so many capabilities. You've got the analytics, search, observability, but for this video, we're going to be focused on security. But please do take the time to review the other categories. They all provide different functions based on what a company wants to use the Elastic SIEM for, because not all companies use SIEMs for security, but our focus as cybersecurity analyst is on security, so that's what we're focusing on in this video. Now that you've set up Elastic SIEM and you've got it ready to go, what we need to do now is actually ingest data into Elastic SIEM so we can actually start generating alerts and making detections on suspicious activity. So the best place to start for that then is to go into down here to Fleet, and you want to go to Add Agent, and then you want to create a new policy. So we'll call it Windows Agent Detections. You can call this whatever you like. Create new policy. And here now we want to enroll in Fleet, so install Elastic Agent on your host. So we're going to do Windows. For this, you are going to need a Windows virtual machine set up. I'm not going to show you how to set up a Windows virtual machine in this video. If you'd like a video on how I set up my Windows virtual machine, just comment down below and ask me to make that video and I'll get it created for you. So we want to come into our Windows virtual machine. We want to go into PowerShell, run as administrator, click yes. Then before we do anything, we want to run this command just to make sure that we can actually run the script. Click yes. Then we want to come back into Elastic, copy this, paste it in here, paste it in here, hit enter, and then you just want to wait. It's going to take a couple of seconds, maybe a minute just to install. Then you want to accept prompts, so that it's going to start to enroll that agent, and then you can see Elastic Agent has been successfully installed. And then if you come back to here, you can see it's got Add Agent and it's saying Agent Enrollment Confirmed. Now it's just going to wait to confirm that there's actually data being sent from that agent to Elastic SIEM, so we confirm that the agent was successfully installed. So just wait a couple of minutes and that should also show up as green. Then as we can see here, it's got incoming data received from one of one enrolled agents. And then if we go back into here, we've got our Fleet, so this is showing our agents that are installed. We've got our host. As you can come in here, you can see the details of it. You can see that it's installed. It's showing it's a Windows host, and it's just says there waiting for initial configuration and composable variables. You can just wait for that. It's showing that the agent is healthy, so it ultimately will then be ready to make a detection on potential malware or malicious activity. This is a good place. You can see last activity, so it's 36 seconds ago, which means that the Windows host is checking in via the agent, which is good. Now that we've got the agent installed, we want to head over to the integrations, and these integrations are actually what we can tell the agent we can add to the agent so they can start making detections. And one of the ones we want to add is Elastic Defend. So we can come in here. So Elastic Defend is part of the endpoint agent, which is going to do the malware detection for us on our Windows-based host. So it's a full end-to-end endpoint detection integration that goes into this agent and will be installed on the agent. So you can do add Elastic Defend, and you can say, I want this to be my Elastic Defend agent. You can see select configuration status, so traditional endpoints, so that's what we've got. We can do the complete EDR, so it's going to be everything for endpoint detection and response. So that means that it'll detect malware and we can actually respond to it. We can do existing hosts. So we can click on our policy, which was Windows Agent Detection. So that means that that integration is going to be added to all agents within that policy. There we can click Save and Continue. This will update one agent. So the Fleet has detected that one agent is already in here. So we can update the agent so it includes this EDR and Elastic Defend integration, and click Save and Deploy Changes. And then if you come in here, we're back in our integrations page and we go to integration policies. We can see that that has been added to our Windows agent policy. So there's so many integrations in here. So all of these have been configured to be able to collect logs from the specific devices, like I mentioned in here. So as you can see here, each device will have a specific agent on it, and then you will install an integration in that agent to collect those logs to push them into Elastic. And there's so many in here that you can choose from. We're also, because it's a Windows host, we're also going to want to put our Windows event log then. So we're going to can actually go into System, click on System, and then add system logs. And what we want to do here, we're actually going to be capturing for Windows event logs, application security and system. So just so you know, this is what this is. So this is the Windows event viewer, and this is where all the logs are captured in Windows. And these are the logs that we want to be able to capture to be able to detect malicious activity on a host. So we can add that integration. So again, very similar, existing hosts, Windows agent detections, make sure all the settings are correct. So we can come down here. So this is not what we're interested in. We're interested in this. So these are all switched on. Collect metrics, so we can save and continue, and then save and deploy that integration to our agent policy. And we may as well finish all the Windows integrations, so we can go in here, go to Windows. Then this is going to be the Windows integration, so it's collecting specific Windows activity via the agent from the host. So you can come in here, you can name it whatever you like. So this is just collecting different events. So each one of these are just collecting different types of events from a Windows host to be able to detect malicious activity. You don't need to know each and every one of these right now. The best thing to do is to go through each one of these when you have time to understand what data they're actually collecting. But you can just come in here and you can just leave these as they are, add it to existing hosts, Windows agent detections, and there we can save and continue, and that's going to add that integration to our... The basis, what I'm trying to teach you here is just the basics of setting up this at home. So now, currently, we've just set up an agent on a host. We've also set up the integrations to collect the logs. Now we're going to be ready to detect malicious activity on the host itself. So now that we've got the agent set up and all the integrations, we can come back into our security section and we can look at the dashboards. So as soon as you set up those integrations, there are some automatic dashboards which are set up. So you can come in here and you can look at some of the dashboards that have been set up. So you can see that Windows is already logging to the SIEM, and you can see the dashboards that are automatically created here. So there's some great stuff that you can be able to come in here, look into each one of these. So you can look at user management events. So look, it's categorizing some of the users that have logged into our Windows host. And it's also being able to format this dashboard in a great way to improve our detection capabilities. But now that we can see some of the dashboards, what we're going to be doing now is actually attempting to detect malicious activity. So to test out the SIEM first, what we're going to be doing is going into detection rules and then creating a new rule. And you can see in here, we're going to leave this as default. And then we're going to event.code equals 4104. Add that in there, leave that like that, then continue. So I can do this as test rule 2, put it as any severity 1, it's just a test rule. Continue, you can leave these as defaults, you can leave this as defaults, and you can create and enable that rule. So there, we want to come back over here. We're going to try and run some PowerShell activity just to try and get that event ID to trigger. And then what we can do then, go into our alerts. And as we can see here, we've got these rules, test rule, which has triggered activity. So you can open this up. You can see what it's triggered on. You can see it's triggered on the event code. And then this is what a cybersecurity analyst is going to look at. And it would be your job then to review this alert and then take the actions either to escalate it or you're going to tune it out to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So now this is confirmed that the SIEM is actually working. What you can do then is that you can go into the rules, go into detection rules, and what the idea then, you can come in here and just test out each one of the rules in here. So you can look for all the PowerShell rules. You can come in here, you want to enable these rules, so you can come up here, click enable, and then you want to go over to, so if you wanted to figure out how to actually alert on these, you can ask ChatGPT. So you can say, how can I generate an alert from this? And it's going to give you the commands then on actually how to actually execute that on your Windows virtual machine. And then what you'll be doing then, you'll be inputting the command into your Windows virtual machine, coming back over to your Elastic SIEM instance, and checking your alerts to see if the activity has generated. So to recap the video then, a conclusion: you understand what a SIEM is, you understand how to set up Elastic SIEM, you understand how to install agents on a machine to generate logs and to be able to detect malicious activity. You now know how to generate that malicious activity by creating your own test rules and also using the pre-built rules that are in Elastic and using your virtual machine to generate that activity and view the alerts in Elastic. And you have everything that you need to now detect malicious activity on an endpoint or a network device using a SIEM. Now I want you to spend more time in Elastic SIEM, more time trying to trigger each one of those rules and generate the malicious activity on your virtual machine and see how the Elastic SIEM reacts. So you're getting so much value from this project that you're understanding the back ends, you're actually understanding blue team engineering, you're understanding how analysts actually get alerts, and you understand how companies can actually detect malicious activity and perform cybersecurity duties using a tool like a SIEM. So thank you for joining me in this video. And now if you want more cybersecurity project ideas, go and watch this video next, and I'll see you over there.